Hello, everyone. My name is Gail Hepburn, and I want to thank you on behalf of everyone at the Dementia Society of Ottawa and Renfrew County for your interest in becoming dementia friendly. Also want to thank you for joining us on our very first webinar as we all attempt to adapt to the COVID-19 emergency. So thank you very much for joining us online here today. For those of you who are unfamiliar with the Dementia Society of Ottawa and Renfrew County, established 1980, a registered, charitable, not-for-profit organization serving Ottawa and Renfrew County. There's a wonderful team of dementia care coaches who provide support for those facing a diagnosis of dementia and their friends, their families, their advocates. They provide education and answer questions for us. They help us develop skills and techniques to remain connected with individuals facing a diagnosis of dementia. Today, though, we are embarking on a different initiative, a new strategic initiative from the Dementia Society, actually started last fall. What we are doing is reaching out to people in our community, in our region, in the hopes of creating a dementia-friendly region. So we are reaching out to schools and businesses and community associations, attempting to build partnerships so that we can build a more friendly, dementia-friendly region. I want to start today with an icebreaker exercise. So what I'm going to do is ask all of you, I'm going to give you 30 seconds, and what I'd like you to do is find a pen or pencil and a piece of paper, because I'm going to ask you to draw a picture. So you've got about, I don't know, we'll give you a few seconds to find yourself a pen, a paper, and then we're going to draw a picture. I will tell you that I'm not going to repeat anything or take any questions once I've started. All right, so there we go. I hope everyone has their pen and paper, because here I start. At the bottom of the page, I want you to draw two squares about 3 inches apart. At the bottom of these squares, draw a series of half circles. At the top of and joining both squares, draw a rectangle. At the top right corner of the rectangle, I want you to draw a circle, the diameter of which is about the same depth of the rectangle. Now, if the circle is a face of a clock, at the 5 o'clock position, I want you to draw an S, half in and half out of the circle. Now, I want you to draw a second S that is parallel to the first, about 1/8 of an inch from the first. On the top left curve of the circle, I want you to draw another circle, a smaller one, smaller than the first, half in and half out of the first circle. I want you to draw an S attached to the top left corner of the rectangle. Now, within the larger circle, draw two ovals, one inside the other, the smaller one being in the lower part of the larger one. All right, now, since I gave you all the same instructions, this is what you should all see on your piece of paper. Now, there's a purpose to this exercise. I want everyone to just take a second and think about how they felt while they were trying to draw this elephant. Did anyone feel frustrated, angry, maybe a little embarrassed? Maybe just throw up your hands and say, I'm not doing that. I'm done. I'm lost. One of the purposes of this exercise is to help people understand how someone facing a diagnosis of dementia may feel when trying to do a fairly straightforward, simple task. Just follow a series of instructions and draw a picture. The other thing that we're trying to get people to understand is that I did not help you in any way. I made it difficult for you to draw this picture. I did not use good communication skills. I wasn't looking at you. I was holding the paper up in front of my face. I was mumbling. I wouldn't repeat things. I was going quickly. So remember how you felt, and try and understand that using better communication techniques, might have helped. Because this is our first webinar, if folks are feeling like they might want to, this is our email address, info@dsorc.org. If you wanted to take a little picture of your elephant, put it in the subject line, DF, Dementia Friendly Elephant, and send it. We'd love to see what you came up with. This is the part about the webinar that's a little difficult for me because I love to walk around the room and see what people have drawn. So keep that in mind as we move forward. Today, really, there's 4 things that I would like to accomplish together. Let's work together to understand dementia and its impact on Canada and on Canadians, how to recognize when someone may need help and what we can do to help. And we're going to close with how the environment is perceived by someone facing a diagnosis of dementia, because it may be a little different than how we perceive our environment. And by understanding it, we may be able to promote a person living with dementia's independence and their safety. So let's just give a little bit of information on prevalence. There are over 400,000 Canadians living with dementia in Canada. That's about 24,000 in Champlain region alone. We are expecting this number to approach 1 million in just over 10 years. The risk doubles every 5 years after age 65, but dementia should not be considered normal aging. I think the statistic that captures people, or that people understand or resonates with them the most, is the one where 9 people are diagnosed with dementia every hour in Canada. That means that by the end of your lunch hour today, 9 more people will have been diagnosed with dementia in this country. 63% of persons diagnosed with dementia are women. Part of this is due to the fact that on average, women do live a little bit longer than men. And also important for us to recognize, and why being dementia friendly in our region is so important, is that 61% of seniors who are diagnosed with dementia in Canada live at home in their communities. And all of these numbers are in fact underestimates. They apply only to people who have a diagnosis of dementia, and not everyone has one. And they only apply to people who are seniors, Canadians 65 years of age and older. And we know that people under the age of 65 are diagnosed with dementia. I love statistics. For those of you who are a little more interested and would like to read more about this, the Public Health Agency of Canada has some wonderful information, as does the World Health Organization and CIHI, the Canadian Institute of Health Information. One of our main purposes with the Dementia Friendly is to challenge the stigma around dementia. We don't want people focusing on the dementia. We want people to focus on the person. When we define who we are, we take in aspects of ourselves, like our occupation. Maybe you're a teacher or a nurse. Maybe you're a musician. Maybe you love to read books. We think about the relationships we have with other people, maybe you're a mother or a father, a husband, an aunt, a best friend, a granddaughter. We think about the groups or collectives we're part of, our families. Maybe you're part of a sports team or a choir. We build all of these things together to create our sense of self. Unfortunately, there are some aspects of ourselves that are stigmatized. It means that some people attach negative ideas and beliefs to that aspect. And unfortunately, once people learn about it, sometimes that's all they see. Dementia can be like that. That may be all people see, and you lose part of who you are. So we are out to challenge the stigma and say people with dementia are people first and foremost. This is ultimately a picture of what a dementia-friendly region involves. So the fine print is showing what our objectives or purposes are. So we want to increase understanding and awareness of dementia so we can challenge that stigma. We want to empower people living with dementia, achieve social inclusion, and improve care and services for them. There's sort of four cornerstones for this that need groups or people that need to be involved. One is we need to involve persons with dementia in any understanding or educational activity around creating a dementia-friendly community. They and their closest friends and advocates and family members, they understand what dementia means to them, what the social or the economic costs may be. You need to involve communities, have them understand what the social and physical environment mean, how it can be best used to encourage the participation of people living with dementia in their programs and their services. Organizations, medical organizations, businesses in the communities need to encourage and have people with dementia welcome in their organizations and businesses. And we want to build partnerships. For example, the Dementia Society is building partnerships with many different levels of government and with community associations. And I'm hoping that some of you today may consider this the beginning of our partnership. Ultimately, we want you to consider the Dementia Society to be a resource for you, for members of the community, not just those living with dementia and their closest friends and advocates. So what is dementia? Dementia is not a one-size-fits-all illness. Everyone starts out differently. We're different people. Everyone's brain is unique, but everyone's symptoms may be different. Everyone's journey is going to be a little bit different because different illnesses or diseases cause dementia. So dementia is an umbrella term. Alzheimer's disease is one kind of dementia and the most studied. But also there are vascular types of dementia. People may have had a stroke. People with neurodegenerative diseases like Parkinson's disease may have dementia. And people can have more than one type. So think about dementia as if it's a chronic disease, something like arthritis. It takes years to develop, and as yet there is no cure. There is no cure for dementia, not yet. Symptoms start off small, little things, and they build up over time. These symptoms are progressive. They involve not just a loss of memory, but difficulties with thinking, challenges with language or problem solving, challenges with visuospatial function. That means things like depth perception or picking out objects in space or even recognizing someone's face. And there is no doubt that these symptoms will reduce a person's independence. I want to also draw your attention to young onset dementia. About 3% of our Canadian population with dementia are in fact under the age of 65. And the first symptom observed by friends and family is often that the person did not seem quite themselves. A person may struggle or make mistakes in daily tasks or at work, even though they have not significantly changed. And I like to read that out because I like to say at work. When I'm speaking to younger folks, say in a high school setting, I like to say it's not just your nana and your papa or your grandma or your grandma. It could be someone your parents' age, someone working, someone paying a mortgage, someone with financial responsibilities, raising their own children, looking after their own parents. Individuals under the age of 65 may be diagnosed with dementia. There is a support group called Between Us that is run by the Dementia Society to support individuals with young onset dementia. And one of the concerns that's often raised is that the person with dementia was fired or let go from their job before they understood what was going on. They were struggling, not surprisingly, with some of the early symptoms of dementia. Dementia is considered a disability under our federal and provincial law, and employers do have a responsibility to reasonably accommodate individuals with disabilities. It is something to keep in mind. Individuals with dementia may have to consider retirement or unemployment at some point, but not before seeking out rightful and reasonable accommodation in their workplaces. Moving on to how to recognize when someone may need help. How do you recognize it? What are some warning signs? What are some things that you might see that might signal to you that someone is living with dementia? Okay, memory loss that affects day-to-day activities. And it's important to remember it is affecting day-to-day activities because we all forget, maybe an appointment every once in a while. But someone facing a diagnosis of dementia forgets more often. They may forget conversations. You're repeating things during your conversation. There may be challenges with performing familiar tasks. So individuals, sure, you may forget to put the peas out on the table, but someone with a diagnosis of dementia may forget how to put together a meal they've been putting together their whole lives. They may actually start to have challenges getting dressed in the morning. They may experience some confusion about time and space. So sure, we may forget, wait a second, is today Tuesday or is it Wednesday? But then we remember. Someone with dementia may be confused about the day of the week more often. They may be confused about the season of the year. When it comes to space, they may have difficulty navigating in familiar surroundings, finding their way home from the grocery store. They may have challenges with language, have trouble finding words, or substitute in words that don't make sense into sentences. It makes it very difficult to understand. You may witness challenges with abstract thinking. This can help explain why someone may not be able to balance a checkbook because the symbols on the calculator don't make as much sense to them anymore. Perhaps more importantly, abstract thinking applies to things like answering open-ended questions. Asking someone, what would you like to do today, is an open-ended question. It can be something that's difficult to answer. Abstract thinking also applies to things like metaphors or jokes. People with dementia may have a more difficult time understanding jokes. Items are often misplaced. Speaking with people who work in retirement communities or long-term care homes, misplaced items, eyeglasses, hearing aids, dentures. They're very carefully wrapped in tissue and put somewhere safe. Wallets, keys often end up in strange places, perhaps the freezer. You may see changes in mood or in behavior. So what this picture depicts is a sudden change in mood. You go from very happy to sad and vice versa without truly understanding or seeing a reason for it. You may see changes in judgment. People are making poor, say, financial decisions, making poor clothing choices, wearing a summer jacket out in the middle of winter. You may witness loss of initiative. Sure, there are some activities we can all grow tired of and no longer want to do, but previously loved activities, reading, watching a movie, playing the piano, people with a diagnosis of dementia may not be able to participate in those activities. More difficult may be that they're losing initiative to even spend time with friends and with family. You may witness changes to personality. People start to do things that they would never have done before, say things they would never have done before. Perhaps someone's nana is swearing a great deal, and this is not something that lady would ever have been doing in the past. Okay, what could we do to help if we recognize that someone may need assistance? What can we do? First and foremost, we can enhance communication, and we're going to talk a little bit about that today. It's important to offer help, and I do mean offer. Ask, may I help you? And third, we can support their reality. We can adapt to certain situations. Someone facing a diagnosis of dementia's brain changes make it more difficult for them to adapt. We can adapt to the situation so that we can remain connected to the person with dementia. Here's some tips, 10 tips. The first is approach the person from the front. If they're seated, go down to that level. One of the reasons that this is so important is because of the visual changes that are happening for someone living with dementia. I can ask that everyone do this, and you realize that things you were able to see, you can't see anymore. People living with dementia, their peripheral vision is shrinking. They're very forward focused. So approach the person from the front. Get down to that level. Identify yourself, so tell them your name and offer to help. Again, it is an offer of help. Maintain eye contact. It will help them focus on what you're saying. And I think that is just good practice for everyone. Address the person by name if you know it. Speak slowly and speak clearly. Present one idea at a time. It will help them understand. Now, these two things are actually very difficult to do, speaking slowly and clearly. I support a mother living with dementia, and we were fast talkers and covered multiple things in the same conversation. People would laugh when they'd see us together because there was always so much going on. So addressing one thing at a time and speaking more slowly than you normally would is a challenge. And it can be, I think, especially challenging for individuals whose relationship is evolving with a person living with dementia. Repeat or rephrase the person's responses. This can help clarify what it is that they're trying to tell you. Good practice. Remember abstract thinking and following. So ask yes or no questions. Instead of what would you like to do today? Because that requires thinking of what could I do? What do I want to do? What do I usually do with you? Say, would you like to watch TV or listen to some music? It's a yes or no question. Use gestures. They can help back up your words. So, are you cold? Can I help you walk down the street? Perhaps proffer your arm. Listen actively and acknowledge their emotional state. If the situation is frustrating, perhaps recognize that it's frustrating. Say, this must be really frustrating for you. I would be frustrated. And finally, let the person know if you are going to touch them. It will prevent startling. We don't want to startle people. Just a few more tips. The ones highlighted here in black are new. The other ones, I think, were on the previous slide. So really, you want to demonstrate respect. Talk to the person with dementia instead of their caregiver, family member, or friend. If someone is with them, talk to the person with dementia. I have had wonderful experiences with even financial advisors who have spoken with the person with dementia, recognizing that their support person is there, but they were demonstrating respect. And definitely do not prejudge their level of understanding. That can change during the course of a day, or certainly from one day to the other. Remember that our goal is to connect, not to correct or argue with someone with a diagnosis of dementia. And above all, be patient and understanding. Now I want to give some video examples that can demonstrate how your awareness and understanding and patience can help someone living with dementia feel supported, keep them involved in daily life, and allow them to live well in their communities. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a link to YouTube where the Dementia Society has some videos posted. So here we go. And I'm going to start with this one here. It actually is about a conversation over the phone, but you do see the gentleman's face, and I think it still can demonstrate um, evidence of support.
Coast in pricey Malibu. Run off with high surf and damage.
Hello?
This morning, are still strained as the forecast calls for more rain for the rest of the week.
Hello?
Hi, is this Judith McGraw?
Yes? Who is this?
Mrs. McGraw, this is Sean from View Now Cable. I'm calling about your account.
Do I know you?
I'm from View Now Cable. According to our records, your account is over 90 days past due. When can we expect payment?
Past due? I don't understand. What is it you want?
You need to bring your accounts up to date. If you don't, we'll have to cancel your service.
What service?
Is there someone else there that I can talk to?
Well, I don't know.
Ma'am, if your account remains unpaid, it'll go to collections. So you need to pay your balance right away, okay? Have a good evening.
For people with dementia, communicating can be challenging. That includes talking on the phone. If you think someone might have dementia, make it easier for them by talking a bit slower than you normally would, and by breaking the conversation into smaller pieces. I don't understand. What is it you want?
Your cable bill for your television. It hasn't been paid recently. I'm calling to bring your account up to date.
Using the person's name can help to calm and reassure them.
Mrs. McGraw, I'm here to help. We'll get this sorted out.
If you're still having difficulty getting your message across, try to find other ways to help.
Should I talk to someone else who's home with you?
Oh, yes, my son is dropping by after dinner.
That's fine. I'll call back then.
Okay, thank you. Goodbye.
And one other.
Next customer, please.
Oh,
Next customer, please.
thank you.
Good morning. What would you like to mail today?
I want to send this package to my grandson. It's his birthday soon.
Okay, great. I'll just get you to fill out this form, please.
Oh, it's just a gift.
Oh, yeah, but it's just basic information like your address and who it's being sent to.
Oh, I know I have my address written down. It's in my purse here somewhere.
Ma'am? Excuse me, ma'am. We're really busy today. Do you mind stepping over to the side to fill out the form?
And what do you want me to do?
I need you to step over to the side to fill out the form. Bring it out when you're done.
I don't understand.
Take your time. I'll give you when you're done. Thank you. Next, please.
What might be considered routine tasks, like filling out forms or handling money, can be difficult for people with dementia. You can make it easier by offering your help and reassurance.
Just take it to the end of the counter. Bring it back when you're done.
I don't understand.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, these things can be a little bit confusing sometimes. Would you like me to help you fill it out?
Oh, yes, I sometimes have a little difficulty with these things.
Yeah, I know. That happens.
Taking the person away from distractions and noises can help make it easier for them to focus on what they're doing.
Let's go down to the end of the counter. I'll help you fill it out. Shelley,
A little guidance or some cues can be enough to get the person back on track. Breaking a bigger task into smaller steps can also help.
And that's where you put your name.
If you notice that the person is struggling, you can always offer to do the task with them, but not for them. Oh, my hands don't seem to want to work today.
That's okay. Would it be okay with you if you just gave me the answers and I wrote them down for you?
Oh, that would be very helpful.
Thank you. What is your name, please, ma'am?
Judith McGraw.
So hopefully those videos did demonstrate what it is that you can help someone feel supported and keep them involved in their daily life and allow them to live well. That last one, I think, also helped illustrate the changes in vision that people with dementia may be experiencing, and also the importance of having a champion in your workplace, because both of these videos demonstrate the amount of time that one should take in order to be respectful and to be patient and understanding. There's one final video that I would like to show you, and I want to point out it is somewhere in Australia because this takes place on a bus, and the bus is on the wrong side of the road. Well, for us anyway.
Take it, man. Oh, sorry. Is this you? Is this you, man?
Hey, are you getting off this time? Are you getting off here?
Oh, when you leave there, darling?
Look at me, darling.
Sorry. You okay there, mate? Yes.
He keeps ringing the bell.
I know. Where are you getting off?
Not till the city.
I'm not going to the city, mate. I'm going by the airport.
Okay.
You're on the wrong bus.
Thanks. You got somebody that can pick you up?
I don't know.
Maybe a family member can come get you.
I don't know.
Okay, you just sit tight there, all right? Depot, driver T1. I've got a gentleman who's a bit confused about where he's going.
Okay, tell you what.
I'm not too happy about dropping him off at the stop. He seems a bit disorientated.
Okay, tell you what. Stand by.
I'm trying to get a contact number from him, maybe a family member.
Okay, tell you what. If you get a number, let us know.
Thanks. Just sit tight there, okay, mate?
This is my stop. I am getting off.
Hello. Sorry, I was plugging my computer in. I want everyone to think and think and be honest. If their initial reaction was to immediately assume that it was the video clip was going to be focused on the older lady and that it was about her having dementia. I know I did. I know I did. And this video was actually designed to help us understand that this bias exists in order to let us be better able to challenge it and to understand that individuals younger than 65 are facing a diagnosis of dementia. Finally, we want to work together today to understand how the environment is perceived by someone living with dementia. Even if we can't change the physical environment, understanding how the environment is perceived can help us promote independence and safety for someone living with dementia. Persons with dementia experience changes in depth perception and in color perception. In contrast, colors are not as vivid. And contrasting colors can sometimes take on a whole new meaning. And these changes impact how people perceive things like clutter and floor junctions and thresholds. So what are some of the things that we can do? We can highlight important visual elements. So on the left, we see a washroom where in the second picture, key elements have been highlighted in a different color. So the toilet paper dispenser, the paper towel dispenser, the garbage can are highlighted in green. It can sometimes also be beneficial to make sure that the toilet is a different color from the floor or the walls, just to make it easier for someone with dementia to really see it. The picture on the right is demonstrating how chairs can be in contrasting colors to the tables and the floors. One can also consider place settings and ensure that the place settings are in contrasting color to the table itself or any table linens, tablecloth that you have on it. What else can be done? You really want to have more subtle contrast between floors and walls. You really want to avoid high contrast patterns on floors. So, for example, and all over cities, especially in wintertime, you see these big black mats at entries. Changes in hue are often perceived by people with dementia as changes in floor level. What this means is that this black mat could be perceived as a very large black hole, and no one wants to walk into a big black hole. The middle picture, we are looking at a checkerboard pattern. Again, these kinds of things could be perceived as changes in level. This could look like stairs or a very uneven surface. On the far right, zigzags and diagonals could be perceived as moving. It could be perceived as a moving object, and individuals may not want to step on it. Relatedly, if you have motifs that are quite large, they can also be perceived as real things by someone with the diagnosis of dementia. So countertops with very obvious flecks in them could be perceived as dust or dirt or something that needs to be removed. And that can be very, very distracting. What else can be done? You really want to increase light levels. As individuals get older, we need more light, and someone with a diagnosis of dementia requires a little bit more light. So maximize natural light. Bring in with skylights. Avoid dark hallways that you see on the left. For some reason, some hotels and things are now starting to put in some darker hallways. Something you do want to remember is you want to bring in natural light, but also allow for shading and privacy. It's wonderful to have a chair next to a bright window, but maybe at certain times of the day the sun is baking in, or someone's sitting in full view, and it might just be a little nicer to have perhaps a sheer curtain or some blinds that can be adjusted. You really also want to reduce shadows and minimize glare and reflections. So some artificial lights, for example, on the right here, we're seeing a task light, and that is good. But when it's the only light in a room, you are creating shadows above it. And shadows can also, in the same way that large motifs could be considered real objects, shadows could also be perceived as real objects. You want to minimize glare and reflection. Things that reflect could be perceived as a wet floor. So some bathroom surfaces or flooring that's quite shiny, people may not want to step out onto it because it's wet. I know of folks living in a retirement community, and behind it, brand new shiny black tarmac, shiny black. It's it was good that they refinished the parking lot, but unfortunately, every time someone looks out the window, they thought the parking lot was wet. Constantly having conversations about it must have just rained or it must have just snowed. So we want to try and minimize glare and reflection. What else can we do? Reduce noise and unwanted sounds. Certainly, we all have different tolerances for background noise and sound. But for someone living with dementia, noise can be particularly disruptive and distracting. And we actually did see some of that in the video clips that we looked at. So I challenge you to do a noise audit. Go into the room where someone living with dementia is living. Close your eyes and listen. What does the traffic sound like? How loud are the heating and air conditioning units? People living in shared accommodations, retirement communities, long-term care homes, care staff can be loud. They communicate with one another. They communicate with other residents. Housekeeping and nursing trolleys go by. Other people have televisions on. Sometimes you hear alarm calls. So reduce the noise that you can and be aware of how loud things are and how distracting they can be. You want to use enabling signage. Signs are great about drawing attention to things and communicating a message. I think it's pretty clear. We could all find this toilet. It's a good image. It's very clearly labeled. But signs can also compete with the environment around them. And you'll see on the on the right, someone arriving in an airport just bombarded with signs. It's so difficult. They're competing with one another. Some people have actually used, to try and help illustrate how someone living with dementia may feel, have said, imagine you've just come off a very long flight and you've walked into a strange airport and don't know where you're going and you're trying to navigate your way through. This could be an example of how someone with dementia may feel on a given day. So hopefully, what we have done today is increase your understanding and your awareness of dementia so that we can challenge the stigma. We want to empower those living with dementia so that they can live well in their communities, be treated with dignity, with respect, and maximize their independence. So I want to thank you again for taking the time today to join us, for being interested in becoming dementia friendly. and working together to create dementia-friendly communities, a dementia-friendly region. No one should face dementia alone. We are here to help. Please, consider calling to talk to a dementia care coach today if you have any questions. Part of this new strategic initiative is introducing you to the Dementia Society of Ottawa and Renfrew County so that you feel that it is a resource for you. So you can reach us by phone. There's also an email option, and we have many resources on our website, dementiahelp.ca. So thank you. Thank you for your time today.
Gail, so anyone has a question for Gail? Okay, it seems that you don't have any question now.
That's okay.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Gail.
Thank you, Emma.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.